Hey guys, my name is Bando, this is Brexit Bando, and today I'm going through some terrain. So you may have seen this posted over on Discord and a few other places, and this is just a simple piece of XPS foam that I've carved into making look like some rocks. You can see here another one, it's a dual one, which has also got some filler on it. And I use the filler just to add some strength, some texture, that sort of thing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through some different terrain I've built, some tips, some sort of like suggestions, hopefully give you some inspiration. And you can see here, this is what those start as. Literally just all the little offcuts from the XPS foam I'm using for other projects, glued together on a cocktail stick. And then I shave them down into the shape of these rocks. Now some of these bigger ones, they're not actually held together with the cocktail sticks, but it is better to do it that way. It's just like pinning a miniature. PVA glue and XPS foam takes forever to dry. You can see here a nice big mesa kind of thing. And this is just so I can make a background for my Blood Angels and my Night Lords, because they're fighting over a desert world, and I wanted to just take some nice sort of thematic pictures. I do the same with some other armies. So you might have here, you know, the good old standard GW, like ruin sets. These things came with like Kill Team. They're fine, but they're a little bit boring. But they can be made a bit more interesting. Now this is an older one that I've never finished, but simply mounting it to a board and texturing it, cleaning the dirt off of it. You see I've got bits here from Necromunda, from 40k. There's some plumbing piping there. And just remember, it's got to be scaled up so things can actually use it. So, you know, make sure gaps are big enough for things to move through. But this is, for the Mars sort of setting for my Sons of Horus and my Imperial Fists. So there's a couple of them here that are red. And really, it's no different to making another model. Here's the back end of one of the Crashed Aquila lander kits that came out in 4th edition with the Macragge box set. That was actually painted up in the colours of the Sigillite and the Wall of Martyrs, I think it was called. I got a load of these parts in like trades, but again, just filling them out with bits and pieces, some texture, some sand, that sort of thing, mounting it to a base and just making it look a bit more interesting than just a plain piece of plastic that you might have spray painted and then dry brushed. And this is what they look like before they're painted. So this is just a bunch of filler or textured paint. You can see that sort of goldy bit in the middle is it's actually a resin piece. And then I've used cork to build it up. The whole idea is this is just sort of a bit of a sunken road almost. And it just starts with a piece of MDF. And yeah, that's one I tried to use, but nothing would stick to it for some reason. Some of them I cut to shape, some of them I leave square. It really depends on where I'm putting it, what I'm using it for. And here's another one that I'm currently working on. Now my city board, this is just sort of like, it was designed to be kind of a Second World War, but also for my 40k, 30k stuff. So it uses a lot of Second World War parts. Originally it was for my Polish army, who were the defence of Warsaw. Cork tiles, absolutely going to be one of the best things you can use for terrain. Great for bulking out areas. A lot of these are put together in kind of a slapdash way. You can see here, this one, I just found a grate. I can't remember where I found it from. I think I was walking down the road and I saw it and I was like, that looks great. And I thought, in my head, I just had the image of like a grate that was used to get into like an underground lair or something. I got some, you can see here I cast up some bricks out of papier-mâché, or plaster of Paris, sorry. And add little details. Couple of knocks on it. It's rock solid. It's covered in PVA glue. And I just saw that plastic piece and I thought, yeah, I've got to have that. I've got to build something out of it. On the flip side, I decided to build something using some of the Necromunda parts. It didn't come out how I was hoping it for. It's a bit of an older one now, which I've kind of just never got around to finishing. But using GW plastic parts is a great way to do it. Again, I love using these resin bits. I use the plaster, the filler to just sort of blend things together, and then I cover it all in textured paint. I cover it in sand. Again, just another piece for, you know, breaking up line of sight, adding some cover for a unit. I'm sure Spill is already typing away furiously that I don't play the game. Why do I care about cover? Go away, Spill. Another Crash Aquila Lander. I have like 2 of these. Again, this one I is a bit of a heavier base. Sprue, chopping up sprue makes great rubble. It's cheap because it's free. Just get some older, bigger clippers. Don't want to use your nice, you know, sharp clippers for chomping up sprue. This is one I'm really proud of. I like to think of this one as like a blasted kind of park. Got these fantastic resin trees, and I made a load of the bricks that I cast up. I got some leaves. I've used that in loads of my pictures of my Raven Guard and my Shattered Legions. That piece is always in there. Similarly, this is a newer one. This is it was an Airfix kit actually, an Airfix resin fountain. Again, ruined city, just a bit interesting. Maybe it's an objective, centerpiece for a board, that sort of thing. And then like a defensive line, you know, it's some supplies, there's a quick hasty barricade or something. And it's loads of just random bits. If you've got bits in your bits box, like that wheel I've had since I was like 6. And that just got thrown on there, because what else am I going to use it for? There's a lot of it. It's all over. It's balanced all over the workshop with it. I nearly kill myself in this video. Unfortunately, this is one of the downsides of MDF, is if you're not careful, it can warp if it gets wet. So I'm probably going to have to break this one off. Or more accurately, I'm probably going to just trim down the base as much as possible. Mount it to a different base. But that's an MDF kit. MDF kits are brilliant. You can make some cheap houses. If you're doing a war game that's set in the Second World War or something like that, historicals, MDF kits are great. Here I've got some XPS foam. I bought some great big like meter square sheets of it, and I mounted it to some MDF to give it some strength. And then with that, I can then use that as a basis for making all sorts of really interesting stuff. One here, I'm not going to move all my Thousand Suns, but you can see here, this is one of my Prospero themed ones. This is like a little kind of pool where I've scoured in these 1-inch square flagstones, and then I've stuck some nice resin jackals to it that I got from Salute one year. I have 2 Prospero themed ones at the moment, with a plan to do a whole load of them because I want to do a whole board for a Prospero. The other one's a bit bigger, and I've already broken a 1000 Sun by doing that. So I'm going to have to repair him after this video is finished. But yeah, it's relatively cheap. So you can see here, all I've done, several layers of XPS foam to build up the base. I've carved in the flagstones. I've added some resin bits, some dead Space Marines, some filler to bulk things out. Everything's kind of varnished and PVA glued. Once this is painted up, I use an embossing tool to carve things in. I start with a ballpoint pen and then I use an embossing tool, which is basically just like a little ball, round ball on a stick of varying sizes. So once that's painted up, that's going to look great. And it'll be a brilliant sort of backdrop for some of my models. So this is what I'm currently working on. This is the base for the desert themed board, and I'm doing it in 2 ways. I've got a sheet of XPS foam which I've heavily embossed to be some sort of like pool, and you can see I've got lots of cracked earth around it, some sort of holes, and all I've done is actually used a paint pot on there and I just rubbed it in a circle to compress down the foam. I've done the same here. It's got like a kind of natural sort of riverbed effect almost in the stone, and that was again done with some paint pots. Ironically, I have actually worn a hole in the bottom of one of my paint pots because I didn't quite realise how abrasive XPS foam can be. Then I've gone over it with the embossing tool, and the idea is I can just place some scattered terrain onto it and move it around depending what I want to do with it, whatever kind of pictures I want to take with it. You know, I can put the different level on there, and then I can, you know, move things around, make a different interesting scene. And this means I can take some sort of fun, interesting pictures. I can make some different, like, in-character videos with it. And that's what I'm really hoping to do with, like, the Night Lords and my Blood Angels going forward. This is something of a pile of shame for me. I love picking up resin garage kits from trade shows. Terrain that is made, usually it's some of the worst quality resin you'll find, and they'll have them all up there for a couple of quid. All sorts of weird and wonderful. This is why I really recommend going to shows like Salute. You can find these fantastic resin cast terrain bits. And they may not look great on their own. You can see there's one of the little craters. But they're really cheap. You know, that barricade's £1.50. You can't even get anything from Games Workshop for £1.50. Some dragon's teeth. And there's a bag of bricks in there as well, mini bricks that you can get. But one of the most important things I've found is these things, which is for model railway modelling. And these are usually made by companies like Willis, and they're just textured sheets. You can get bricks, you can get corrugated iron, you can get cobblestones, all sorts. And I love those. Those are great for making things. You know, so you can take all of these things, little XPS foams, resin bits, plastic bits, junk, actual GW kits, anything you want. You can mix them all together, and you can make something that's really unique and interesting. And it's something I think is really important, because the terrain we see in Warhammer is a bit pants. And a lot of the time, it's just not very good. It's just kind of... It's a bit bland. Hopefully I can throw up some images here of what I mean. But a lot of 40k games I see played at my local clubs it's just the same kind of GW kits put together. If you're lucky, they've been painted. One or two bits of terrain in the middle of a board, maybe at the edges, and then everything is just piled in right to the middle. There's no elevation changes. There's like nothing that's really blocking how people can move. So it very much like takes away from the wargaming aspect of actual tactics. Unlike things like a bolt action board, where a lot of the time the board is made to look more realistic. Obviously it's a realistic setting, you know, a French village for example. But a lot of the time, you know, the roads are built in a certain way, you know, and actually sticking a tank at the end of a long road means that you are cutting that artery off. You know, it's a risk to cross it. It's not just a rush to the middle and start pouring buckets of dice around each other. And I think if we're moving away from GW and we're looking at other war games, we need to embrace other ways of playing games. And that includes things like, you know, different ways of doing terrain. Of course, there's always the option for 3D printing. 3D printing a terrain is fantastic. The use of like an FDM filament printer is a brilliant way of doing that, and you can get some really, really cheap files online for terrain. Lots of Kickstarters, lots of big bundles for very cheap. And of course they can be used for tabletop games like D&D, Pathfinder. You can build terrain for MechWarrior, you can make bases, you can use a resin one for detailing, you know, adding gargoyles, doors, plants, that sort of thing. But there's also a lot of stuff you can do with your own materials. You know, you can cut tin cans up, for example, really easy, like a Coke can or something, a Pepsi can, whatever, and turn it into bracken, you know, like ferns, big wide leaves and stuff. you can use what's called rubberized horsehair to make ivy. You can take, I don't know, I mean, old paintbrushes are a great one, or cheap paintbrushes, because you can slice the bristles off them to turn them into long grass. Welcome mats. If you get a plain welcome mat with no design on it, chop that thing up into squares, you've got yourself a nice field, you know, a field of corn there or whatever. Burn a little bit out in the middle, get a lighter, set fire to it, burn it out, put some stuff in there, paint it up. You know, you've got a burnt field with a crashed bit in the middle of it. The sky's the limit. Your imagination really is the only thing that's limiting you here. You can build an awful lot of stuff out of junk and make some really fantastic terrain. You don't have to buy pre-made plastic kits. You don't have to buy specific manufacturer's kits. We've all seen that picture of the deodorant can hover tank from Rogue Trader. Well, that was the spirit of wargaming for a long time, and you made do. You made what you wanted. There's like a Warhound Titan in one of the White Dwarfs that's literally made from like an AMT, like Star Wars 8080 kit with just bits added to it. If you're not playing at a GW, if you're playing at a club or playing at home in your garage, wherever, go wild, you know, build your own stuff, have some fun. Create something really, really weird. We've all seen that, like, most basic terrain thing from GW back in the day was like foam balls, polystyrene balls, painted green with cocktail sticks stabbed into it and painted red. And it was like, oh, this is a xenofauna, some sort of cactus. Great, brilliant. Mount that to a piece of MDF, an old CD, whatever. CDs make great bases, by the way. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is have fun, have an idea, look at some reference photos, and think about how you could take your board, your gameplay space, to the next level. Alright guys, my name is Bando, this has been Breakfast with Bando. As always, please feel free to drop a comment, whether you agree or if you disagree. Like, subscribe, hit the share button if you really want to help us out. You don't even have to share it to anyone. Come join us on Discord. Come say hi, share what you're working on. Come and have a look at some of the photos. Maybe you get to hear what's going to be in the new videos before everyone else. And you get to hear about the stupid projects that I'm working on and planning to do in the future. As always, you can use the Element Game code that's down in the description if you are shopping from the UK or Europe and you'd like to go over to Element Games. Use the code, get double reward points, get yourself some free models eventually, you know, save up and reap the rewards. Basically that's how I do it. Your guys' support is pretty much the only way I'm buying new models at the moment. So yeah, thank you very much for the support you guys give me, I appreciate it. I do it so I can have something to show you guys. Thanks very much guys for all the support, I do appreciate it. Bye bye.